各位来自全球的健身气功爱好者们，大家好，我是胡小飞。今天呢，受中国健身气功协会的邀请和国际气功联合会的邀请，来给大家一起讨论养生智慧、健身气功俯拾皆是这个话题。
Hello everyone, my name is Hu Xiaofei.I am invited by the International Health Qigong Federation and China Health Qigong Association to talk about the wisdom of health Qigong and how the wisdom of health preservation can be found everywhere around us.
那么我们的这个讲座的讨论的内容呢是这么3条。第一个呢就是健身气功突出了珍爱生命，保护人们的健康。第二个呢，讨论的是健身气功注重保养精气神，来帮助珍爱生命。第三个呢，健身气功契合阴阳综合的养生准则。
Our talk today is divided into 3 parts. First, I'm going to talk about how health Qigong prioritizes human life and protect our health. The second point is about essence, qi, and spirituality. Thirdly, I'm going to introduce the principle of health Qigong, that is, the unity between yin and yang.
对，那么我们首先呢要来回顾一下上次讲座我们跟大家讨论的问题。上一次呢，我们通过庖丁解牛、上古天真论的这个文本的分析，以及这个乾隆和华佗成功养生实践的讨论，我们知道了养生智慧呢，应该包括养生的目的、养生的核心、养生的内容、养生的原则，还有养生的关键等等一些问题。
In our last lecture, we talked about Pao Ding's story. Pao Ding is a very skillful butcher who is familiar with the skills of dismembering an ox. We also covered the dialogue taken out from the plain question, as well as the practice of health preservation by Emperor Qianlong and physician Hua Tuo. We have also covered the principles, the keys, and the goals of practicing health Qigong.
从养生的目的来说呢，我们说它是保养生命，使之长久。那么从它的核心来说呢，我们讲到的是避害防伤。那么怎么样去避害防伤呢？那么有很多的这个内容，比如说原则是要讲究阴阳综合，而且呢，我们在养生的过程当中呢，要去享受它，要去科学的练，勤奋的练，合理的练，以及我们要这个要有美感。
The goal of practicing health Qigong is to preserve health and prolong our life. And the principle of practicing health Qigong is to integrate yin and yang. When practicing health Qigong, we should try to enjoy the process every step of the way and do the moves in a scientific and beautiful way.
那么养生智慧是比较难以总结，然后养生智慧内在呢都存在着一些相关的关系，通过这个查阅文献和思考，以及上一次我们讨论呢，我想呢，咱们能不能把养生智慧的内在关系这么来看？第一个呢，就是养生的根本目的，就是刚才说的，追求珍爱生命，追求长生久世。第二个呢，长生久世的关键这一环扣一环是要保养我们的精气神。那保养精气神的核心呢，是要避害防伤。那么避害防伤呢，它的这个原则是什么呢？你要阴阳综合，就是要通过节与和的这个锻炼和调理生活方式来达到平衡的目的。然后你要想达到阴阳综合的这个原则呢，那必须要有合理的养生，也就是合理的养生方法。在中医也有一些，在这个《黄帝内经》里面 也提到4大养生方法。上次课我们说过，而且呢，世界卫生组织也提出了4大基石，这都是我们的这个有效的营养综合的途径。那么要实现营养综合呢，我们首先要实现这个人与天、人与自然、人与社会、身与心的结合。那么最关键的呢，是你要去实践科学的生活方式。
In our last lesson, we talked about the wisdom of health preservation. It is not hard to find that the logic is one leads to another. Firstly, the ultimate goal of practicing health Qigong is to cherish our life and pursue a long life with good hearing and good eyesight. And the key to preserving this kind of life is to preserve our essence, qi, and spirit. And the core of doing that is to avoid harm. The principle of avoiding harm is to unite yin and yang by restraining and harmony. These principles were all mentioned in our last lesson. We talked about traditional Chinese medicine, the Yellow Emperor's inner canon, and the 4 cornerstones raised by the World Health Organizations. And the ultimate goal of yin-yang equilibrium is the 3 unity, including the unity between heaven and man, man and society, and our body and soul.
做任何事情呢，都需要摸规律、抓特点。所谓纲举目张，就是抓住重点来进行这个合理的这个调摄解决。也就是说，我们的养生的这个关键，养生的这个规律，也适合我们做其他事情。比如说下棋，棋如人生棋如养生书法戏曲等等吧。反正就是说，我们要把养生和生活和事业结合起来就是这样呢，才可以达到我们这个实现美好生活的效果。也就是说，要养生和这个生活品质，要美好生活要结合起来。
This reminds us that in order to do anything well, we have to abide by the rules of nature and figure out what's most important. That is why the wisdom of health preservation can also be applied to all walks of life. And that is exactly why we often compare life to a chessboard or calligraphy or opera. That is to say that we have to combine health preservation with our life quality, because a successful life has everything to do with health preservation.
庖丁解牛其实他讲了很多养生的道理，但是呢，养生的关键词呢，它并没有直接的给你就是说从庖丁解牛来说就是从这个文慧君和庖丁的对话来看，就没有牵涉到一个是养生的事儿它里边的最关键的一个词呢，实际上呢就是它的刀用了19年还是新的，这是我们要关注的，这是我们养生的一个核心。
We talked about a story about a skillful butcher named Pao Ding who was able to dismember an entire ox with ease. The story was told in a dialogue between Qin Wenhui and Pao Ding. Although this story was not actually a story about health preservation, but we can tell from what Pao Ding said about his knife and how he managed to keep his knife as sharp as it was 90 years ago. We can tell from what he said that this can actually be applied to health preservation.
对，因为他的刀因为他游刃有余，因为他随心所欲，因为他这个顺其自然，所以他能保护得很好，19年不伤。然后呢，这个不好的就是说，这个水平低的那个庖丁呢，就1个月就换一把刀，或者是几年换一把，1年换一把刀 这是它的关键。那么我们可以从这个地方呢，也领略到我们的养生反过来不仅仅是为了珍爱生命、健康长寿服务，也可以把这个通过养生体会到的这个人生智慧，通过这个达到这个游刃有余啊，这个避害啊，来这个和学习、工作、生活自己的事业结合起来，这是我们养生、练习健身、气功、实践应该所追求的东西。
Paulding was able to keep his knife as sharp as it was 19 years ago because he did it by cutting through the gap between each joint of the ox, which helped him avoid the resistance. In comparison, other butchers have to change their knives every month or every year. And this story has led us to believe that health preservation wisdom and health Qigong can be applied to all sectors of our life, such as our study life and our careers.
那么俯拾皆是，这个可能大家都清楚啊。我们这个就是中国的爱好者们啊都很清楚啊，就是形容啊这个低下头来捡取的话到处都是。就是形容多而易得。
In our topic today, we mentioned a Chinese word called 俯拾皆是. It basically means that something can be found everywhere around you. This is a term taken from the book called The Grace of Poetry. And the point that we are using this term for the title of the speech is that the wisdom of health preservation is actually all around us and can be easily found.
也就是说我们要建立一个概念，什么概念呢？就是健身气功处处体现养生智慧，处处落实养生智慧，处处得益养生智慧。但是怎么得益，怎么实现，这是我们要讨论的问题。
Health Qigong is the kind of exercises that fully implements and embodies the philosophy of health preservation. Health Qigong benefits all practitioners, and now let's talk about how we should put into place the wisdom of health preservation and benefit from it.
那么我们来讨论，首先呢，健身气功突出珍爱生命，它体现在这个地方。生命呢是可贵的我们上述就说过，人有五福，其中呢有3条呢是跟健康长寿是挂钩的。而且呢，你来到这个世界上的这个概率呢是非常低的有人统计300亿分之一而且呢，这个生命一旦失去，永无回还，它没有返程车。
Firstly, we must cherish lives. This is something recorded in the Book of Documents, which mentioned something like the meaning of 5 blessings are health, wealth, peace, good morals, and living a long life that we deserve. The Book of Songs have also mentioned similar terms. Besides, our chance of being born into the world is merely 1 out of 30 billion. Once a life is lost, it can never return.
这个大家都非常清楚，不用多说所以我们呢，吕氏春秋就说到，要避数之物，在乎去害，要避其数也
Mr. Liu's Spring and Autumn Annals recorded that the meaning of a long life refers not to its sheer length, but the lifespan that one deserves. And the key to living one's life to the full is to avoid danger.
那我们避数避什么数呢？这里我们的生物学家做过的这个研究，发现我们人的这个寿命应该是生长期的5至7倍也就是说，你生长期是20到25岁，那么你的生长期的5至7倍呢，你的寿命就应该是125到175其他的算法，像性成熟的算法、细胞分裂算法、身体强弱算法，不管怎么算，人都应该超过120岁。
What do we mean by living our life to the full? Biologists said that If we count our life expectancy by the math of growth period, we can times 20 to 25 to 5 to 7 and get 125 years old to 175 years old. If we do the math by age limit or sexual maturity, we can all get numbers higher than 140.
中国也有这种说法，叫上古天真论，就是说这个度100岁呢去享尽天年啊，并且认为我们上寿呢是120，中寿是100，下寿才是80。
We have similar terms in China. In the book Plain Questions, Treatise on Natural Truth in Remote Antiquity, the book mentioned that we should meet one's peaceful end at the age of over 100 years old. The book even went so far as to say that in the best case scenario, we can all live till 120 years old. And in the not so good scenario, we can live 100 years old. And 80 years old is actually the worst case scenario.
那我们应该活到100岁，但是我们没有活到100岁。你看，我们的平均预期寿命最高的是这个日本才平均预期寿命呢才是83.7岁。那么我们国家才74.3岁啊。
We all deserve to live till 100 years old. But what's the reality? Japan has the longest life expectancy, but it only stood at 83.7 years old. And the number in China is even lower, which is 74.3 years old.
那么但是我们国家的平均预期寿命增长很快去年的调查就已经涨到平均77.3岁这是一个可喜的现象。
Thankfully, China's average life expectancy has shot up to 77.3 years old last year, which is delightful.
我们没有活到那个年龄就没有活到应该享受的这个预期寿命但是呢这个我们就是人类呢是可以达到这个高度的人类是可以达到这个高度的。比如说世界的100岁老人就有很多像日本像美国7万多，日本6万多，中国4万多等等吧。
Although most of us can't make it to the age that we all deserve, but it is not impossible to live till that age. In the US, there are actually about 72,000 people who are over 100 years old, and the number in Japan is about 67,000 and 49,000 in China.
而且呢这个最长寿的都已经接近120岁了。
The Guinness World Record is even nearly 120 years old.
这就是说通过上述的分析呢，第一个呢，我们这个预期寿命是要就是我们的人类的这个寿命应该超过100岁，就自然寿命。然后呢，我们呢没有达到预期寿命，但是呢，人类呢是可以达到的是可以享受到的。那么怎么达到？我们来看。
Now let's take a look at how we should try to live our life till 100 years old.
为了这个养生长寿达到长生久视的目的咱们中国呢是有很丰富的文化的比如第一个就有长生久视的思想比如说老子还有这个尚书诗经都提到过这个长生久视的概念考周命万寿无疆还有百寿图这些的都是这个追求长生的这种文化。
China has a long and splendid culture that has recorded our theory and studies on how to live a long life. This is well documented by philosopher Lao Tzu, and in the Book of Documents, it mentioned the meaning of 5 blessings and longevity. The books of songs have also talked about wishing others having a life that never ends, and to be able to live as old as the South Mountain or a pine or a cypress.
有了这种理念，有了这种文化，我们才有这种研究，这个实践、思考，才有这种效果。所以呢，这个李约瑟就说道教思想从一开始就有长生不死的概念，而世界上其他的国家呢是没有这方面的例子。它意义在后面，这种不死的思想对于科学具有难以估计的重要性。也就是说，你有这种思想，你才能创造各种各样的方法、理论，去帮助这个解决这个问题。也就是说，去实现这个，这里说的是长生不死，但是实际上呢，我们是说想达到应该达到的这个寿命。
It is based on these concepts that Chinese people have done plenty of research in this regard. Joseph Needham used to say that from the very beginning, Taoism was seeking immortality. It is a thought that has immeasurable importance to science, and this is something that is unique to China.
那么为了追求长生久世呢，在中国这个文化上呢，是这个历史悠久源远流长首先呢，从理论上来说呢，它有一些练习方法。健身气功呢，是源自于这些理论和方法的。比如说，健身气功源于大武就是为了健康长寿服务的。像《吕氏春秋·古乐篇》里面有记载。然后呢，健身气功也是大武这个演变成导引然后在健身气功也是这个继承了导引的一些特色那么导引呢，它更是明确提出，像庄子可以明确提出吹嘘呼吸，吐故纳新，雄鸡鸟声，就是为了为寿而已就是为了这个实现彭祖那样的长寿我们知道彭祖呢据传是活了760岁
The concept of living a long life with good eyesight and good hearing can be traced back to a long time ago. How Qigong was created exactly on the principle and methods in this regard. For example, Da Wu dancing was created in order to help ease people's condition of unstretched muscles and bones and depression and discomforts. And Hao Qigong was created on top of Daoying, which also inherited from Da Wu, the dance. Besides, Zhuangzi also wrote that we need to breathe the foul air out of your chest and breathe in fresh air. Climb up a tree like a bear, spread out your arms the way a bird does with its wings. These movements will help you unclog your meridians and veins and eventually prolong your life, and one day live as long as Emperor Pengzhu, who was said to have lived for 760 years or even 800 years.
那说庞祖据记载活了700多岁，也有说800多岁但实际上呢，我们这个查阅文献的发现呢，彭祖那个时代，他那个纪念方法呢是小甲子的方法，就是60天是1年。那这样的话呢，你要是除6呢，可能他按照现在来算呢，他应该是活到120多到130多岁，这个是有可能的。
Although Pengzhu was said to have lived for 800 years old, in fact, studies show that the calculation method at the time is very different from the one that we are using now. To sum up 60 days in that calculating method is the equivalent of 1 year in our modern calculation method. That is to say, if we divide 760 with 60, we get about 120 to 130 years old, which is plausible.
其他记录这个延年益寿的这些理论这个书籍很多，像这个华佗像这个上古天真论都有这个就不一一这个介绍。
There are also plenty of books in the history by Hua Tuo, the physician, and also the Yellow Emperors in the canon, which have also mentioned the methods of prolonging our life.
刚才介绍那么多的，就是说健身气功的理论基础呢，是为这个延年益寿服务的。然后呢，健身气功呢，它的概念呢，也是为健身防病服务的。
To sum up, Health Qigong was created on the theoretical foundation of prolonging our life, and Health Qigong's concept was to protect our health and avoid diseases.
这里我们可以看几个关键词。第一个呢，它是形体活动、呼吸吐纳、心理调节相结合，然后呢，它是一个体育项目，然后它又是中华文化的重要组成部分，因为刚才说了，它这个有长寿的文化。
Let's take a look at some keywords here. Health Qigong is a traditional physical training event that combines physical movements, breathing exercises, and mental regulation. It is an important part of China's long and splendid culture and history.
那么在03年我们国家成立健身气功中心的时候，也明确把健身气功定义为62个体育项目。
In the year 2003, when China's Health Qigong Center was first created, China's General Administration of Sport has named Health Qigong as the country's 62nd sports activity.
他们有的人问我说，为什么会把它定为体育项目我说你就是意思就是的我的回答我的理解，意思就是呢，健身气功就是为健康、延年益寿服务的，不要去想这个别的虚无缥缈的东西。
Some people used to ask me that why did the government make Health Qigong a sport? My understanding is that Health Qigong helps you improve your health and prolong your longevity. And let's not think about something so vague and just believing that.
因为你一跟体育挂钩了，它就明确了你的这个活动的这个特点然后它的目的是身心健康、全面发展同时呢，它又可以培养完善的社会公民和这个它又培养完善的社会公民为终极目标的一种社会文化现象和教育过程。
In a narrow sense, sports is a physical education that uses physical activities to foster a healthy mind and soul. Its ultimate goal is to cultivate a good citizen.
就是说它跟我们的目标呢，总目标是一致的，当然里面的这个内涵会有一些这个区别那么体育呢，除掉这些功能以外，还有很多很好的功能我们来看看你看李宁是我们体操王子，他在这个李宁是体操王子，他在这个体育事业当中获得了辉煌的成就曾经一届拿过3块奥运金牌，而且拿过6块，有一次拿过6块世界锦标赛的金牌。他对体育的理解比较深刻而且呢，他认为体育锻炼呢能助他的事业成功。
Sports also benefit individuals and the societies in many ways. For example, Chinese athlete Li Ning was very famous in the sports community. He has acquired many achievements throughout his career, and he is also nicknamed as the Prince of Gymnastics. Li Ning used to win 3 gold medals in Olympic Games and 6 World Championships. And he once said that sports has greatly benefited his career.
那么我们说啊，所以健身气功呢，它有体育的本质属性啊，但是不是完全一样的，它有它的独特功能啊，延年益寿。而且呢，健身气功呢，它的手段、方法、特点呢，契合中老年人啊，而且灵活可调，体现了中国传统文化，所以可以帮助我们学习传统的养生知识，领略中国文化，建立科学的生活方式。
Health Qigong is essentially a sport, but it is also different from other sports in that it was designed to prolong our life. And the methods, practicing, features and content of Health Qigong make it very beneficial for the elderly in particular, because this kind of event can be adapted flexibly based on the needs of individual practitioners. In the meantime, when you practice Health Qigong, you can also get a glimpse and a taste of Chinese blended culture.
其实刚才我们说到健身气功，它本质属性就是为了健康长寿的啊。然后呢，健身气功的这个管理方面呢，也是强调科学规范，这个可以为健康长寿的护航。比如说它在功法的内容上呢，它继承了传统的经典的功法像1568温对导引术等等吧，这些都是来自于传统的经典的导引体系。而这些经典的导引体系呢，不光为中国中华民族的健康大众的健康做出了贡献，而且呢，还为中华民族的繁衍生息做出过重要的贡献。同时呢，在18世纪，这些经典的导引呢，都传到欧洲，成为这个瑞典体操的很好的成为帮助瑞典体操的很好的这个项目，也传播在世界各地，为大众的健康做出了一些努力。
We have just mentioned that the goal of Health Qigong was to prolong our life and preserve our health. And when it was first created, Health Qigong was also designed in a scientific and standardized way. For example, all its contents have inherited from traditional Chinese Health Qigong system, including movement 1568 and Ma Wang Dui Dao Yin exercise. The Health Qigong health preservation system has contributed greatly to the reproduction and health for people throughout history. In the 18th century, Health Qigong was also exported to Europe and helped Switzerland with their local gymnastics design.
除掉这些功法的直接源于传统的功法去整理创编而来像导引养生功12法呀，像大武还有养生太极养生杖导引这个12段锦这些呢也都是通过整理和继承传统的导引术来的。
The 12-step 导引 exercise, 大武, Tai Chi, health preservation stick, and 8 pieces of brocade were all compiled and inherited from traditional Chinese health preservation system.
第二个方面呢，就是健身气功的创编过程呢，突出了科学性、规范性和制度性这个呢，这是他们一些工作的流程都是非常科学规范的
When Health Qigong was created, it went through many stages in a scientific and standardized and regulated way.
而且呢，组织推广呢也是有条不紊、可控，这个是安全可靠的。
It was also publicized in a reliable and scientific way.
历史就是这个通过实践的证明呢，这些都是行之有效的一些办法。
Through practices, we have come to terms with the fact that these methods are all practical.
因为健身气功的目的这个明确、管理科学，所以呢，它在健身防病的效果方面呢也是很显著的。这是一些研究的这个资料，其实这只是冰山一角关于这个各种功法的这个对人体生理心理这个调节的这个研究呢非常多非常多，而且呢还有这个管理方面的研究，还有降低医疗成本、节约经费的研究都证明健身气功对于改善身体健康、提高免疫力、预防和康复疾病有很好的效果。
Countless research and studies have all proven that health Qigong is proven to be very effective in improving our health, boosting our immunity, and help patients recover from diseases.
这个节约经费这一块呢，我们说是一个非常好的这个效果。为什么呢？因为我们健身气功呢是通过预防疾病、改善身体通过这个提高身体机能增进健康来预防疾病，达到未病先防的目的。这样呢，它就基本上就可以这个解决就可以解决少用经费因为你得了病以后再去治，这样的话呢，它用的这个花费的这个经费是非常大的不要说我们，就连美国那么发达的国家，如果按照他们那样的条件去治疗这个现有的这个病人，他每年花费的经费呢，这个是国库了是支撑不了的也有人研究说如果说我们都按照美国的标准去治疗我们现有人的疾病，那么我们地球的2.6个地球的资源都不够。
Meanwhile, health Qigong is also effective in reducing government expenditure. By improving people's body immunity, we can then prevent diseases and do a good job in preventative treatment and prevent diseases early on. Developed countries like the US, although developed countries like the US have the conditions to treat existing diseases, its government treasury won't be enough. Studies show that if we all treat the patients according to the standards of the US, even we will have to take 2.6 of the Earth's resources to do that.
所以我们呢要大力推广健身气功，而且呢，这个推广健身气功的效果也被这个国际社会这国内外所认可。比如说这个国际奥委会就把群众体育发展促进奖颁给了我们健身气功。此外呢我们的健身气功呢也进入了去年抗击新冠病毒肺炎的武汉的方舱医院而且呢我们的健身气功八段锦在去年北京体育大学这个官方微博上发表刘小磊老师的表演的那个视频点击量一下就超过了800多万。
That is why we need to promote health Qigong in a big way, because the effects of health Qigong has been recognized all over the world. Such as in 2011, the International Olympic Committee has awarded health Qigong with the award of advancement for mass sports. And House Qigong has also made it to Wuhan Mobile Cabin Hospital since the outbreak of coronavirus. Last year, 8 pieces of brocade has also, the performance by Liu Xiaolei has attracted 750,000 views on WeChat and 8.5 million views on Weibo.
这说明这实际上是一个顶级明星的待遇通过上面的分析呢，我们能看到就是首先呢，我们要树立珍爱生命、我要养生的思想，然后呢还要端正我们练习健身气功的目的，就是为了健康长寿、提高生活品质服务的，而不要去追求那些这个练功以外的不切实际的想法，比如说什么特异功能发外气、开天目等等成仙得道这些莫须有的这个想法。第三个呢，就是我们健身气功呢要在这个中国健身气功协会和国际健身气功联合会的组织指导下进行科学练习当然这个我们指的是健身气功，打篮球踢足球就不属于这个了。
So based on those, based on what I just mentioned, we have to get it right and believe that we have to preserve our health. And when we practice Health Qigong, we have to abide by the science and get it right by knowing that it is health and longevity and the process that we are after, instead of abiding by unrealistic goals when practicing Qigong, such as developing psychic superpower, opening up inner eyes, or becoming immortal.
而且我们还要有信心有决心认为就是明确健身气功是完全可以帮助我们达到健康长寿的目的的。
And we have to have the faith and determination that Health Qigong can actually help us prolong our life and preserve our health.
那么第二，谈到前面我们谈到了健身气功这个它的目的以及它的这个效果。那么怎样达到这个效果呢？怎样实现这个目的呢？我们再来讨论一下健身气功它着重在什么地方。
We have just talked about the goal and effect of Health Qigong, and let us now talk about how we should prolong our health through 3 points.
我们说呢，健身气功呢，它的这个核心呢是在保养精气神。
The core of Health Qigong is to preserve our essence, vital energy, and spirituality.
精气神很重要。上一次讲座呢，我们已经讨论过这里大家再回顾一下，就是这个精气神呢和日月星水火风是同并列为我们这个的宝贝叫天有三宝，日月星；地有三宝，水火风；人有三宝，精气神。这个概念呢，我们中国传统文化呢是根深蒂固的
The ancient Chinese people even compared essence, vital energy, and spirituality with the sun, the moon, and stars on the sky, and wind, water, and fire on the earth.
而且呢，我们在练习的时候，在修炼就是在习练这个养生功法的时候呢，也要讲究凝神练气，练气生精。炼精化气，炼气还神这是它的这个宗旨练习的宗旨，养生的宗旨。
And when we practice Health Qigong, we have to remember to condense our essence to produce qi, and practice qi to produce essence, and condense essence to turn into qi, and eventually turn into spirituality.
那么讲这个什么意思呢？就是说精气神很重要精气神很重要，这个就不多解释。那么 为什么重要呢？它要这个保养精气神，我们应该怎么样保养呢？那么我们要看这个决定精气神的物质基础那么我们首先明确这个精是什么，是吧？这精是维持人体的生命活动的精微物质，它一个来源于就先天之精来源于这个父精母血，后天之精呢来源于饮食水谷。
Let's take a look at what the material behind those three treasures. Essence is the nutrient substance that sustain our body, and it is divided into two parts. A prenatal essence, that is the essence that we are born with, taken from our parents, and postnatal essence is the essence of water and grain.
那么从这个情况来说呢，我们练习健身气功的人你是不太可能再回去这个调整你的父精母血的，是吧？你的遗传先天遗传度已经是决定的，那么你只有去保养后天之精。那后天之精呢，是这个水谷精微，那这个呢是要靠这个五脏来帮助的，特别是这个脾胃的运化功能。
It is impossible for us to return to your mother's belly to change what is already predetermined. And what we can do at the moment now is to preserve what we acquire from the nature and to protect our 5 internal organs, especially our spleen.
那么气呢也是这样的它有先天之气，也是来源于遗传然后气呢还有就是这个还有这个天地之气大自然的气同时呢我们的气呢还有这个脏腑之气，比如说中气来源于呼吸，是大自然的，也有脾胃运化的，营气的、胃气的，这些呢都是脾胃的。所以我们要调气实际上呢也是要调理我们，也是要以调理我们的肺功能好了，我们的中气呼吸之气就好那么脾胃呢这个运化水谷好了，我们的营养好了，我们的营气、胃气、中气就这个有战斗力了有这个它的功能就会强。
There are also the prenatal qi and the qi that we acquire from heaven and earth, that is the nature, and the postnatal qi including 元气、中气、营气 and 胃气. The last 3 focus on spleen and stomach. That's why when we regulate our qi, it is the same as regulating our lungs, spleen.
当然从哲学层面上从这个易经这个老子学说来看呢认为呢这个气呢是天地一气通天一气，就是万物都是由气组成的，而且呢这个气呢要负阴而抱阳，冲气为和，就是要协调阴阳这个融合，或者阴阳和合那这个呢是一个这个比较更智慧更高的命题。我们在这个健身气功的练习大众里面呢，我们先要强调的是要调理我们的肺脾胃，当然也要注意去建立这种哲学思想，起码有这个概念，到底怎么实现呢？我们可以放在后面慢慢讨论，或者是专家讨论好了，我们好好的用就可以了。
From the perspective of philosophy, Yi Jing and Lao Tzu have both mentioned theories about qi. Lao Tzu mentioned that qi is the origin of all things on earth, and it is the integration of yin and yang. And when practicing health qigong, we just need to know the spleen, stomach, and the lungs are what we are practicing throughout the process. However, it is also essential for us to have a basic understanding of qi, and we will talk about this later, and maybe in future we can just implement what the experts have condensed. 那
么讨论完了精和气，我们再来看神 那神呢也有广义、中义和狭义的那么我们主要来看一看这个狭义的神呢，上次也说过，它指的是精神和心理活动，是人的大脑功能对其客观世界的及其对客观世界的反应是我们对客观世界的认识和反应。
Now let's take a look at spirituality. In a narrow sense, it means the mind, conscious, and mental activities of our human brain. It is also how a human brain reflects on the subjective world.
那么这个神的组成呢广义中义的我们不说，我们就说狭义的神呢它呢这个是气血化身的精神的基础的物质。气血呢就是气血是化生精神的物质基础，也就是狭义的神呢是我们气血得来的那气血这个充盛呢，我们就神志精明、神清气爽的如果气血不足呢，就是精神萎靡不振
In a narrow sense, spirituality is condensed by qi and blood. It is which is the spirituality's fundamental materials. That is why the amount of qi and blood have everything to do with our spirituality. When we have enough qi and blood, we are energetic. And when there is a deficiency of qi and blood, we might look dispirited.
我们知道了，就是气血，就是气血对这个精神是有这个是气血是精神的基础那么我们反过来也应该知道，如果是这个神的这个神和五脏呢是有密切关系的我们都知道，肝在之为怒，心在之为喜，脾在之为失肺在之为忧，肾在之为恐就知道这个大喜大怒都会或者是这个悲忧惊恐都会对五脏产生不同的伤害。
So qi is the foundation for essence, and spirituality is tightly linked together with our 5 organs. We know that lung is in charge of anger, and when we feel overjoyed, our heart might be influenced, and our spleen is determined by longing, and when we are worried, our lungs get affected, and when we get afraid, our kidneys get affected.
历史上我们都有这种这个五脏这个就是情志太过会伤五脏的这种案例，比如说大喜伤心犯禁中举像这个大怒伤肝这个气死这个笑死牛羔，气死吴猪还有就是悲忧伤肺像李妹妹这样的这都是典型的例子。也就是说，过度的精神这个情绪会导致五脏的伤害，反过来五脏的这个虚衰也会引起情志的不适不调。
Throughout Chinese history, there are many examples of how overwhelming emotions might affect our 5 organs, such as Niu Gao was loved too much that he died, and Wu Zhu died of too much anger, and vice versa. If our 5 organs are weak, our emotions will be influenced.
这个里面呢，可能我们外国的朋友不太清楚这个我再稍微解释一下比如说犯禁中举是什么？犯禁呢是一个这个学子他呢考了好多年这个举人考多年这个就是考试没有这个获得好的成绩，没有达到他的目标结果呢这个不得志郁郁寡欢坚持了好多年，突然有一次呢他考进了，结果他大喜过望，结果自己造成了精神失常那这个精神失常呢，这个大喜伤心 要有这个惊恐来，就是按照五行学说要用惊恐来治，所以呢，他的老丈人这个扇他一巴掌，结果把他给打好了。
So maybe our foreign friends are not familiar with those stories. That's why I want to explain this to you. Fan Jing is a scholar that has failed many years of exams, and he was very depressed because of it. But one year, all of a sudden, he made it to the exam and was going to become a government official, and so he was overjoyed. And according to traditional Chinese medicine, overjoy will hurt your heart, and to cure this overjoy, and you will have to be shocked, and so that's why his father-in-law slapped him on the face and shocked him out of the overjoy and cured him.
因此我们强调就是要重视调摄五脏来保养我们的神，同时的反过来呢，我们要通过调神来内安我们的五脏。
That's why we need to regulate our 5 organs to protect our essence, and we also need to protect our essence to improve our 5 organs.
刚才我们讲的是这个精气神，我们调养精气神是重要的，然后调养精气神的什么什么呢？就是跟内脏的关系我们既要调养内脏，又要调节精神，而且呢，精气神呢，它三者是有内在联系的。内在联系互相可以相生的互相补充，互相转化一般来说呢就是这个理论上来说呢这个精是基础，气是桥梁，神是核心就是我们所有的调养精气神的活动要围绕着这个养神来进行当然调养精这个调养气也是很重要的，这个刚才已经说过了。
We have just introduced essence, qi, and spirituality, and how important these 3 will be for your 5 organs. And actually, these 3 things are mutually reinforcing, interdependent, and mutually transformative. Essence is the foundation, qi is the bridge, and spirituality is the core. So every practice should revolve around your essence.
那么在调养精气神方面，就围绕着脏腑进行调养呢，健身气功做得很好。首先，它的创编呢，就是围绕着调养五脏来的。比如说八段锦它这个每个动作跟这个所要防治的疾病和内脏有关系。比如说这个调理脾胃虚单举，是吧？还有摇头摆尾去心火，两手扳足固肾腰等等。
And House Qigong was created based on these 3 things, and all the movements of 8 pieces of brocade were created to regulate our organs, such as sway the head and shake the tail. Separate heaven and earth were all created to regulate our spleen, stomach, and heart.
而且呢，我们的五禽戏是对应于五行五脏的比如说虎对肾鹿可以调肝，熊可以健脾就熊戏可以健脾等等。
And 5 animal boxing also was created in correspondence to each of the 5 elements, such as practicing the tiger movement helps your kidney, and the deer movement helps ease your liver, and the bear movement helps with your spleen.
还有六字诀包括六字诀的吐字发声，都是针对不同脏腑的。
And the 6-character formula and the chanting were also created in correspondence to 5 organs.
上述说到的我们针对的脏腑的进行调节的练习呢，大家不能只认为它只是调节这个，应该认为呢，应该理解成这些动作是以调节这个脏腑为主的比如说我们喝字诀这个主要调心，但是它的这个动作 她的动作也可以对别的这个脏腑会产生一定的影响的。特别是你像这个五禽戏里面的这个五禽戏里面的这个虎戏它主要放的强调是这个补肾的，但是实际上它抻筋拔骨、舒展大方，这个练习呢也有助于疏肝这不是不可以的因为人的动作是整体性的，牵一发而动全身。
But this does not mean that each movement only corresponds to one organ. For example, in the 6-character formula, the chant of He helps with your heart, but it also helps with other organs as well. And in the 5-animal boxing, the tiger movement helps with your kidney, but it also helps with your liver because it stretches your bones and tendons. When we practice House Qigong, we practice not only for one organ, but we practice in a comprehensive way.
那健身气功不光是说从这个套路设计、动作设计上来调养我们的五脏保养我们的精气神，而且呢，它呢动作的这个手段、动作的特点呢，也是围绕着调养精气神的。它是有调形、调息调神调意调形、调息、调意这3个这个手段这3种为手段，而且呢以3条合一为基本准则。
All those House Qigong movements were designed to protect our 5 organs, our essence, vital energy, and our spirituality, and all its movements and features also help with our heart, essence, and our emotions.
它是怎么来达到调养精气神的目的的呢？我们来看看，比如说调形是怎么样达到的？这种方法呢是这个丰富多彩千变万化。那么呢，我们呢要从它的这个本质上去了解它，就是它的特点去了解它因为这个内容特别丰富，我们不可能全部讲，我们来举几个例子给大家这个讨论一下。
How exactly is House Qigong going to help with your all your 3 treasures and your physique? There are many ways to it, and it is impossible to cover them all. So let me give you some examples.
中国这个人呢对这个锻炼呢来调养精气神呢很重视。比如说他有外练筋骨皮、内练精气神的说法还有形和气和神的关系，叫形不正则气不顺，气不顺则意不宁，意不宁则神散乱。
The traditional Chinese people have many sayings about this. It says that House Qigong practice on the outside your tender bones and your skins. On the inside, it practice your essence, qi, and spirituality. There is also another saying that goes, improper movements lead to impede qi, which leads to a restless mind, and a restless mind then lead to a diffused spirit.
这些呢口号呢，我们是耳熟能详特别是中国国内的健身气功爱好者或者是我们这个老会员，国际联合会的老会员都懂但是呢，它还是这个流于口号的形式，我们怎么样实践？
I'm sure the Chinese practitioners and the old members of the International House Qigong Federations are all very familiar with these sayings, but they are merely slogans. How exactly should we go about doing that?
首先我们讲的这个健身气功呢，是要通过畅通经络来达到保养脏腑、保养精气神的，叫练功归经。
Firstly, we regulate our organs by unblocking the meridians in correspondence to each organ.
我们知道这个经络呢是人身体气血运行的通道 正常的时候呢，气血在经络上是这个畅通无阻、无处不至的。这个时候呢，我们的脏腑是健康的。反过来呢，如果这个气血经络不通，气血阻滞，就会造成脏腑不健康。同样的，如果脏腑不健康，也会导致经络的不通。所以我们要畅通经，要想治病，要想保健脏腑，最重要的是要畅通经络。所谓通则不痛，不痛则通，就是这个道理。
Meridians are the channels for qi and blood. Usually, when we are healthy, our meridians are unblocked and the qi and blood circulate everywhere. However, when they are blocked, the organs will be impeded and vice versa. That's why when we try to cure a disease, we will have to unblock our meridians. There is an old saying that goes, when there is pain, there is a blocked meridian, and when the meridian is blocked, it causes pain.
那么我们要想畅通经络呢，首先呢，我们要这个强调身体知识的中正安舒。
So when we want to unblock our meridian, we have to stand and sit upright.
也就是说，你这个强调这个身体知识符合它的这个解剖这个解剖的这结构的要求比如说合理对称不僵不拘然后要符合每一种功法的它的规范。
So, being upright and relaxed means that our movements should be symmetrical. Our bodies should not be stiff, and we have to abide by the practice standards and remain relaxed and comfortable.
我们耳熟能详的就是说坐如钟，站如松，卧如弓等等这个呢有助于我们放松。这个，因为它符合人体身体解剖的这个结构的规律，所以它有助于放松我们的气血同时呢也有助于呼吸的调节更重要的是，你身体放松了，肢体没有更多的这个对你的这个思想的妨碍，就可以保持精神内守
Chinese saying goes that we need to sit like a bell and stand like a pine tree and lie on the bed like a bowl, and these movements will help us relax and keep our meridians circulated so that the qi and blood can circulate freely. And this will also help with our breathing regulation. And what's more important is that these movements will help us become less guarded, and which will be beneficial for our essence and spirituality.
当然你看这个姿势，比如说我们一个无极桩这个姿势呢，要求你的下颌微收。两肩下沉，百会上领，两肘微屈，两肘放松，沉髋和松膝。如果做不到，把膝挺起来，你的你的这个膀胱经呢就会受到小腿就紧张，膀胱经就不畅通如果你不沉肩呢，你的百会起不来，你的这个脊柱呢就得不到很好的舒展。这样会影响到督脉的畅通。
Let's take a look at the Muji standing exercise. You need to pull your jaw back and lower down your shoulder, and with your arms relaxed on your sides. You need to lower down your hip and pull your knees back. If your knees are not pulled back, your calf will be tightened up, which will hurt your bladder meridian. And if your arms are not relaxed, your du meridian will be infected.
包括你那个下蹲的时候是沉髋屈膝 带动身体下蹲。同时呢，在沉髋屈膝的同时，我们的百会要上领。如果是一沉髋屈膝，一哈腰，一低头，这样你这个督脉就不畅通，就影响了气血的流通。因为任督相通，百脉皆通，百脉皆通，你的脏腑才能平安。如果你任督这个不通，这个气血不通，脏腑就会受到影响，脏腑的健康就会受到影响。
And you need to crouch and lower down your hip with your knees bent. Instead, if you bend your waist and lower down your head, your du meridian will be blocked, and as a result, your blood and qi will be blocked. And when your du and ren meridians are blocked, every of your meridians will be blocked, which in the end hurts your organs.
所以我这个在这个教学过程当中呢，提醒人们要身体中正呢，我就会讲的一个口诀写一个口诀给大家好记特别是中国人能记。比如说这个欲拔顶来，先沉肩百会上领这个督脉畅通，百会宣就是说你要想使你的虚灵顶劲，头颈整直的话下颌微收这个是一个要求。同时呢，你要把肩下沉，通过下沉肩来帮助拔顶这样呢就使你的督脉畅通这个百会的这个阳气这个得到很好的这个提升，叫百会宣，就是气宇轩昂的轩
When I teach, I wrote a slogan to help my students keep their bodies upright. It says you have to lower your shoulders so as to keep your du meridian circulated and keep your whole body's meridian circulated. If your head is upright, your shoulders will naturally go down and vice versa. And if your jaw is pulled back, your shoulders will lower down and your du meridian will be circulated and the brain meridian will be lifted.
那么你如果说你的肩不下沉，光是这个百会上顶的话，就会造成你的颈椎的僵硬同时呢你百会不上领呢你这个脊柱呢这个又不会放松，这样的会造成这个脊柱内环境的这个恶化，这个气血循环差，这样也会导致我们的督脉脊柱造成一些不良的影响。
If your shoulder is not lowered down and instead your head is keep stretching upward, it might cause your body to look stiff and your spine will create a worse environment for your meridians, and this will have negative effect on your du meridian.
同时我们呢不光是这个无极桩要求沉肩拔顶，而且我们这个马步桩要求你沉髋提顶，就任何时候你不管是下蹲也好，是起也好，百会都是上领的，不能说下蹲就哈腰起来再起来再拿两个腿把你身体顶起来，这些呢都会造成这个对气血运行的阻碍。
Not only is Muji standing exercise requiring you to do this, horse riding exercises and other movements also require you to lower your hip and stretch your neck. You cannot bend down with your two legs, and because this might lead to blocked meridians.
这个行正呢，不光是桩功的时候要求行正坐着站着，不光是这个姿势行正，而且在动作过程当中，你的这个肢体呢也要行正。比如说提手的时候， 提手的时候，你手腕提起来，手指下降，然后呢，你这个按掌的时候呢，你的肘关节下沉，这个要坐腕舒指，这些呢都是要求行正。如果你这个下坐的时候，你没有说坐腕舒指，你是这个把这个手掌按下去，然后肘关节抬起来，这样子也是属于行不正的，这会影响到气沉丹田。
Being upright does not only require you to sit and stand upright, it requires you to abide by uprightness throughout the entire process. For example, if you raise your arm with your palms facing downwards, you have to keep your ankles lowered down. Otherwise, if you do the opposite, it will in fact the effect of how your qi goes to your dantian.
有时候我会经常跟这个学员讲一句话，叫做欲沉肘欲沉肘不是这样的，欲沉肘要外撇手，轻轻的外撇手，气沉丹田这个气沉丹田，气沉丹田干嘛？后天补，就补益后天这补益先天，调理后天就是补中气壮元气。就是如果说你是这样的话，气沉不下去，这个呼吸也影响到呼吸，影响到你的这个精神意识。
I've also said to my students that if you lower your arms with your ankles unbent, it will impede your dantian from lowered down, because you need to lower down your dantian to nourish your 中气 and primordial qi.
那么健身气功呢，在这个锻炼的过程当中呢，也特别注意通过这个旋引缠绕来刺激经络。
While practicing health qigong, we also emphasize spiral and twisting movements.
这个最典型的表现在这个健身气功、导引养生功12法。
This is well demonstrated in the 12-step health qigong exercises.
还有这个五禽戏里面也有等等包括这个易筋经和八段锦里面都有一些这样的旋引的。
The twisting movements can also be found in the 8 pieces of brocade, 易筋经 and 5 animal boxing.
它这个做法呢，比如说我们前缘起运前缘起运这样摆臂收回来，这个就要求你呢旋臂呢就比较充分比较充分那么这个呢，它的是这个它的这个理由呢，就是叫循经取动，强调臂旋。就是按照经络的走向做动作，那这个做动作突出的呢是在旋臂。
Take the qian, the original qi awakens vitality. For example, when you do this movement, you have to fully twist your arm in order to follow along the meridians.
那么我们这个旋臂呢，循经启动是循什么经呢？是循手三阴三阳经，特别是这个肺经特别是手太阴肺经、手厥阴心包经、手少阴心经。
So when we follow along the meridians, we mean to follow along the 3 yin and 3 yang meridians, in particular the meridian for your lungs.
那这样的话呢，通过刺激这个，通过旋臂呢，可以刺激到我们的手臂。那么手臂那个经络呢是在皮下肉上的，这样一旋转这样一加强旋转呢，就加大了这个扭矩，加大了对这个经络的刺激，就可以起到启动内气、畅通气血的目的。
By twisting, we can stimulate the meridians, which is seated inside, in between your skin and your muscles. And by twisting, we have increased the gap in between and stimulated the qi and blood from flowing.
一松一紧呢，一松一紧呢，实际上是给我们的经络进行按摩，也可以起到蓄气的作用，然后比如说我们这样一紧，这个气血呢可以蓄积到一定的程度，然后呢再一放松，它就这个能量比较足，对病灶的冲击，对畅通这个经络，有很好的作用，这叫启动内气。
By launching the internal qi, it means that we aim to massage our meridians by first tightening it up, then loosening it down, and thus creating an impact on the meridians.
所以通过锻炼来，想通过锻炼来强心益肺的朋友们，就是怡心，畅肺的朋友们。应该多做这种旋臂的动作。
So for those who want to stimulate and improve their heart and lungs, need to do more of those twisting movements.
但是我发现我们在练习的时候，很多人是做的有点不到位，浮皮潦草的。比如说旋臂吧，就旋到这个地方，还不到45度呢，我们要求你充分的这个去旋。这要充分的旋怎么做呢？要把这个拇指往上挑，去合，这个我们也有歌诀，一会会给大家介绍。
But I have noticed that when practicing, a lot of practitioners have not done it properly. Some of them have not even twisted their arms to over 45 degrees. And we require you to fully twist your arms by raising your thumbs and twisting your thumbs towards the sky.
比如说我们在这个练习过程当中要做到松紧结合，你要旋拧加大呢，就是要求你欲内旋，向内旋的时候，这是内旋，拇指向下的向里的时候，这个拇指里就是拇指呢往上挑，然后逐渐加力，逐渐用劲儿，心肺用劲儿，不是用力，人不是钢体，人是生物体，要逐渐的用内劲儿，用这个心劲儿，做到最后呢是外静内动，里面再逐渐加力。然后欲外旋呢，要小指翘，你要这个手臂想外旋呢，你的这个小指往上挑一挑，这个刺激心经，然后呢，你的食指呢往下引一引，这样对拔，就使得你的手臂是不是发胀了，手指是不是麻了？这个时候呢，对心经和心包经的刺激有很好的作用，这样可以畅通心经、心包经，这样你的心的功能、心的这个健康就有得到保障。所以说心欢笑。
For example, we firstly when we twist our arms, we should let our thumb go up and use more force. By force, I do not mean the sheer strength. I mean the kind of force that you use from within, and so as to come up with a result of calmness on the outside and dynamic on the inside. And when we twist your arm on the other side, make sure that your little finger will point upwards so as to influence your heart meridian, and with your index finger pointing inside to make your arms feel some tingling. This will help smooth your heart meridian.
其实旋拧我们有助于调心益肺，同时呢，缠绕呢也有这个作用。这个缠绕呢是刺激小关节，我们放在后面讲。
Twisting movements benefits your heart and your lungs, and the spiral movements also benefit those two parts in that they twist your tips and joints.
第三个我们要讲的是健身气功呢，是要通过抻筋拔骨的动作特点来对我们的脊柱进行梳理，来畅通我们的肾经，来达到还有疏肝利胆的作用。
Stretching your bones and tendons have the benefit of unclogging your meridians and soothing your livers and gulls.
那么这个练习，是反了那么这个练习呢，就是要做到呢，要强调适当的，就是在柔和缓慢的过程当中呢，强调适当的用力，对称的用力而且这个用力呢是适度的，是这个要用内劲儿。
So when you stretch your bones and tendons, make sure that you do it in a symmetrical way and use strength in a moderate way.
所谓的对拔拉长所谓的对拔拉长，比如说我们这个里三焦的动作，插手上托上顶你的髋下沉，脚抓地这个时候呢，腰要往上拔，顶着你的手腕但是这个时候的力呢，不是用蛮力，而是用劲儿，用内劲儿，外静内动，就是外面看不到有动作，但里面呢还在适当的逐渐加力。
So when you do the pose of 2 hands hold up the heavens, you firstly interlace your hands, hold up your arms, lower down your hips, and you stretch your legs and waist, twist your wrists. At the same time, make sure to use some strength. This strength is not force, but the strength that you can't see.
同样的，对那个小关节的这个刺激比如说打公式一节一节的打公式一节一节的向上顶，这个颈椎一节一节向上顶，然后胸椎一节向上顶，然后是腰椎一节一节的向上顶，给它拉开也是属于撑筋拔骨的还有就是我们这个在练习过程当中动作过程的松，到了结束的时候紧，这个对手腕的这个用力，这都是属于撑筋拔骨的范畴。
Another example of stretching your tendons and arms is the bowing down in solution in 易筋经. It stimulates your chest, and when you do it joint by joint, which will help you stretch your body and bones.
那么这种大幅度的用内劲的撑筋拔骨的练习有什么好处呢？它除掉刚才我们旋拧，加大旋拧的力度对经络对气血的调理以外，同时呢，它可以刺激我们的有关的穴位，比如说我们这个顶弯的动作可以刺激我们的这个肺经的原穴太渊，是吧？这样顶弯的动作可以刺激我们的这个三焦经的原穴阳池你再把这个在练习过程当中思想呢集中在这个地方引导的这个内劲的充分，就可以有效的刺激这些穴位，来畅通有关的经络。
So what are the benefits of doing those poses? When you do more twisting and spiral movements, it not only helps you regulate your meridians and help your blood and qi flow, it also helps you stimulate your acupoints. When you do hold up your wrist, it stimulates your trijiao and your long acupoint.
同时呢，我们加强对这个韧带、肌肉、这个关节囊、这个牵拉撑扯，这样呢也有助于我们这个改善肌肉的这个内环境，比如说使紧张的肌肉变得放松，缩短的肌肉变得加长，这个柔弱的肌肉变得有力量，这样使我们的筋骨强健。那么筋骨呢，它不光是组成人体，帮助人体发挥各种功能的这个辅助器官，而且它是精神的外敷，这是《易筋经》里面说的。
When you work on your ligaments, your muscles and your bones, it helps you create a better environment for your muscles. So those movements help you loosen up your tightened muscles and strengthen and lengthen your muscles. and turn the weak muscles into stronger ones. This is a concept taken out from 易筋经。
那么这个颈肩疼这个腰背疼膝关节的疾病有很多都是由于这个筋的原因引起的现代人呢，特别是低头伏案工作的玩这个游戏的手机的，这个颈肩的问题非常严重应该多做这方面的练习。
A lot of the diseases surrounding our neck, our shoulder, our waists and knees are all caused by diseases in our tendons. And in the modern days, a lot of people spend their time in front of their computers playing games or working. And for us, modern people, we need to do more of those exercises.
同时我们抻筋拔骨的练习呢，有助于疏泄肝气，因为肝呢是这个属木的，在五行里面它跟树木一样的特性，喜欢呢疏泄调达，就喜欢舒展喜欢伸展，这样可以通过抻筋拔骨可以疏泄肝气，而且肝呢是主筋的当我们把我们的筋就是韧带关节囊给它牵拉开了，也可以有利于肝的濡养。
By stretching out your tendons and your muscles, you can then soothe your livers. And in the five xing circulation, liver is controlled by mu or wood. And by stretching out your bodies, it helps you stimulate your liver. Because liver is controlled by tendon.
那么健身气功这个抻筋拔骨的特点呢，跟这个我们这个很多这个重心的虚实分明的位移，特别是马步的结合起来呢，它对我们人体的脊柱和骨盆的调理是很好的。那这个呢是牵涉到一个核心区域的概念就是说现在这个医学就是运动学西方的运动学认为呢，我们人体骨盆和脊柱构成了一个稳定的这个核心区。那这个核心区呢，是可以稳定我们的这个整个中轴，就是脊柱骨盆。然后呢，通过核心区呢，可以传导力量，也可以减弱力量。这样传导力量是改善我们的发力可以提高运动成绩。减卸我们的力量，就可以预防损伤同时保持平衡就特别重视加强这个核心区的锻炼。其实我们这个左右弯弓式射雕这个一捧马步一蹲马步一蹲这样我这个位置有问题就做简单的做一做马步一蹲又加强了这个骨盆的锻炼，又加强了这个脊柱的锻炼其他的很多动作都有这个特性，所以健身气功呢对这个核心区的锻炼呢是有很好的作用同时呢核心区的改善对内脏的改善是有帮助的。
House Qigong and horse riding stance are all stressed on the spines and pelvis of our human body. According to the modern sports studies, spine forms up a area called core area that is constituted by a central avex that is the spine. And the spine is the place where the force is conducted. And if you improve your central area, it will help you avoid future sprain, and it will also help you balance better. So it is important to improve your central core area strength by practicing more of the house qigong exercises, especially the horse riding movement and the move called drawing the bow to shoot the eagle. These movements are all beneficial for your pelvis and your spine.
那么健身气功的这个第4条这个调理内脏的作用呢，主要表现在动作呢，强调细节，强调小关节，就是末梢的锻炼。这个末梢呢，指的就是人的这个肘以下 和这个膝以下的部位，特别是腕踝、直指。
The fourth benefit that practicing health Qigong will give you is to benefit your hips and your joints. These movements help with your joints which are lower than your wrists and your central cervix.
那么这种小关节的运动呢，它可以促进我们的这个远端关节的这个血液循环，也就是促进微循环的改善。这个呢可以改善我们的心血管系统机能，以及防止血压的升高。同时呢，刺激小关节可以使我们大脑皮层这个得到良好的刺激，大脑皮层的这个功能呢得到良好的改善。这个对这个提升智慧和预防这个阿尔茨海默病呢有很好的帮助。
Practice working on your smaller joints and hips means to work on your far and tips and stimulate your microcirculation. This will help you benefit your cardiovascular functions and lower your risk for blood pressure, hypertension, and stimulate your cortex functions and help you avoid Alzheimer's disease.
对，我在德国的疗养院就看到他们用很多这种刺绣的方法、直步的方法、下这个下棋子的方法来刺激这个末梢，来影响我们的这个中枢神经和微循环。这个是跟我们的锻炼呢是异曲同工的。
When I was in Germany, I witnessed how the local hospitals help the elderly people improve their central nervous system and micro regulation by encouraging the patients to do some weaving and play some chess. This is also in the same case with health Qigong.
那么根据中医原理呢，就是中医有个五腧穴的原理，就是它有井穴，我们在表上看到行穴、腧穴、经穴、合穴，依次呢都是从小关节末端，这是井穴。包括脚趾也是井穴，然后呢到行穴，到手腕呢踝关节呢就是腧穴或者叫原穴，然后呢到的手臂或者到小腿呢就是经穴，然后到合穴。
In traditional Chinese medicine, Chinese doctors believe that the human body is constituted of 5 acupoints. From the smaller, they are all smaller acupoints, including 井穴 from the lower end, and 行穴 and 腧穴 and 原穴 on your wrists, and 井穴 on your arms.
那这个这些人体的12正经呢，就有12个井穴。那井穴干嘛的呢？井穴就是精气这个发出的地方，它是最弱的。
There are 12 acupoints in your body, and 井 acupoint is the smallest
就是经络的气最弱的地方。
It is where the weakest essence of human body is from.
就像泉水一样的它是咕嘟咕嘟往外冒，但是呢很弱。然后依次的就变成小溪小沟、小溪、小河，然后到大河。然后到了这个合穴呢，就汇入大海，奔腾向前，就是它的能量很充盛。
井穴 is like a spring gushing out. Although it is gushing out, it is in a very smaller volume. And from the 井穴 comes the acupoints develop into streams, smaller rivers and big rivers, and in the end comes into the ocean.
对，然后你要是到了大海了，就奔腾到了大河了，就奔腾向前，永不回还。所以我们要想畅通经络，这个刺激，畅通经络、运送气血呢，最重要的是要把我们的井、行、枢、经、合这些穴位呢，给刺激到，启动他们的内气来畅通，这样呢可以事半功倍。
So once the river flows into the ocean, it will not return. That's why if you want to circulate your meridians, your qi and blood, it is important for you to practice qigong and stimulate your acupoints. This will proven to be very effective.
中医还讲叫做五脏有病，当取12元。还有呢，心肺有邪，其气流于两肘。也就是说，我们的这些疾病要取元穴和肘心肺的疾病要取元穴和肘关节，要刺激腕和肘关节来治疗。
There's a saying that goes, when your 5 organs have ailments, you will have to trace it back to the 12 sources, and your ankles and your wrists are in charge of your heart and lung.
同样的，要想改善我们脾肺肾的经络的畅通要改善脾肺肾的这个脏腑的健康和刺激它的经络畅通，我们就主要要刺激我们的踝关节、脚趾和膝关节以下的部位。
If you want to stimulate your wrists, your toes, and your knees, you have to you will then be able to improve your spleens, lungs, and kidney.
那么怎么去做到呢？首先呢，要注重细节比如说我们这个卷指、叠腕、弹甲，不能这样胡皮潦草的，一定要弹到，然后撑腕呢，要把力量和意念呢挹注你到你的手腕和手指，要到末梢用劲儿要用到末梢，做事做练功呢要练到细节。
So that requires us to do every bit of detail well. That means when you flip your fingers, you must do it properly and focus all your strength and intentions on the tip of your joints, such as your fingers and your toes.
同时我们在做练习的时候呢，要节节放松，使这个气血呢这个运送到末梢体现出气在人中的这种境界。
So while practicing, you must relax your body joint by joint and ensure that your qi goes to every bit of your tip, and so as to realize the goal of embodying qi throughout your body.
其实气在人中的感觉呢，我们也不要想得很复杂，只要想到的是这个想到的是我们只要练到了我们的手指发胀发麻或者是发热都可以。
You do not need to overcomplicate the concept called letting the qi flow in your body. In fact, you only need to practice until your tips and toes feel tingling and warm.
第5个特点呢，就是我们整个健身气功的练习是柔和缓慢的，而且时间是绵长的。
And the 5th feature of health qigong is that the practice is soft, slow, and the time is long.
它最大的好处呢，首先呢是帮助我们放松肢体，使气血循环，这样可以保健内脏。
Its biggest benefit is to help you relax, and which in turn helps you protect your organs.
同时呢，它可以帮助我们加强深长的腹式呼吸这样呢可以使我们的呼吸能力得到改善。同时呢，还可以帮助我们形成这个中正安舒的身形如果是动作太快，节奏变化太多，那么你自然影响到你的这个身体的姿势的正确、思想的集中、呼吸的深长。
In the meantime, it helps you utilize abdominal breathing and improve your ability to breathe properly. And it also helps you relax and sit upright. If you do it too fast and if you keep the tempo too rapidly, it will also influence how you posture yourself and how you focus your attention and how you breathe.
大家更能明白的更能理解，就是我们 国内外的朋友都能理解的，就是它契合于有氧运动，而有氧运动呢可以产生内啡肽，使精神愉悦，可以提高心肺功能，可以降低这个心血管发病率和这个基础病的发病率，能够提高免疫力。这个呢是有许多的这个实验证明了的，研究证明了的。
I'm sure our friends from at home and abroad are all very familiar with aerobotic exercises. Health Qigong is also proven to be one of those because it helps you release more endorphins and in turn elevate your mood and stimulate your cardiopulmonary function and reduce your risk for cardiovascular disease and underlying diseases by improving your immunity.
那么其实这个有氧运动这种特征呢，我们在这个华佗五星系里面呢已经充分体现出来了。
Aerobotics exercises is fully embodied in Hua Tuo's 5 animal boxing.
所以我们健身气功不要拒绝有氧运动的这种理念啊。
That's why Health Qigong does not reject the concept of aerobotic exercises.
那么这种柔和缓慢的动作呢，我们主要目的不是为了柔和缓慢，主要目的呢是为了帮助细匀深长的呼吸。这是我们这个健身气功调形和有氧运动调形的不同的地方。
And when by soothing, the goal of practicing this kind of soothing exercises is to help you lengthen your breathing. This is how Health Qigong regulates your physique, and this is also how Health Qigong is different from aerobotic exercises.
下面我们来讲讲健身气功调息对保养精气神的作用。
Now let's move on to how Health Qigong help you regulate your body.
其实我们健身气功要求的是这个呼吸方式的是细匀深长的腹式呼吸。
Health Qigong requires you to do a lengthened and slight breathing.
当然你在这个想改善心肺功能，调节这个心脏的这个调节心脏节律的话呢，我们就要强调这个加强柔缓呼气，因为这个呢可以使我们的迷走神经兴奋性增强，使心率变异性得到很好的改善。也就是说，使你的心脏的跳动呢，跟散步一样悠然自得。
If you want to improve your cardiopulmonary function and improve your heart rhythm and heart rate, you need to practice this in a soft way and practice abdominal breathing and in a soft and lengthened way so as to improve its heart rate variability.
同时呢，健身气功的调息呢，调息方式呢，还要注重于这个吐字发声的练习，以来这个调理内脏。
The way Health Qigong help you regulate your breathing also lies in how it helps you improve your organs by requiring you to do some breathing exercises.
它是通过发出不同的声音来调理我们的内脏，并且试图引起对这个各个脏腑经络的刺激的强度改变，这样达到畅通经络的目的。
By chanting and making some kind of voice and sound, it can help you unclog your meridians.
那健身气功的调息，它怎样保养精气神呢？它怎样保养精气神？首先呢，就是我们把呼吸深度加强了，可以使我们的通气量得到增加。比如说我们通过深长的腹式呼吸锻炼， 可以使我们的这个膈肌的动度呢这个增加啊，一般呢有研究表明能增加4个厘米啊，通过半年的锻炼啊，而每下降一个就是每增加1个厘米呢，我们的肺通气量可以增加这个300毫升左右。
How exactly is Health Qigong going to help you improve your essence, vital energy, and spirit? To be specific, Health Qigong requires you to do deep and lengthened breathing, which will help you increase your volume of breathing and your cardiopulmonary capacity. And it is also proven that this kind of breathing exercise will improve your diaphragm by 4 millimeter each if you keep doing it for half a year. And studies shows that each time your diaphragm reduces by 2 centimeters, your pulmonary volume can be increased by 250 to 300.
其次呢，还可以使我们的能量得到节省。
Why it will also reduce your energy.
能量节省就是说，我们可以减少呼吸次数，使消耗在呼吸无效腔里面的这个工作就是这个做工呢，减少。
It will save your energy by improving your pulmonary function.
那么另外呢，就是因为膈肌的蠕动它可以加强对内脏进行按摩，比如说肝脾胃进行按摩，就是我们膈肌按摩，然后使它的血液循环呢得到改善。
Well, if you practice breathing exercises, it will let your diaphragm massage your livers and spleen.
这个迷走神经的改善呢，兴奋性提高呢，又可以直接促进肠胃动力的增加，然后心率的减缓，血压的下降。
This will directly stimulate your parasympathetic nerve and increase your gastrointestinal motility, increase your digestive juice secretion, and slower your heart rate.
那么最有意思的是呢，如果按照中国传统的认识呢，认为这个呼吸次数的减少，就呼吸量的增加，次数的减少可以延长寿命，因为我们的呼吸呢是有定数的。
And traditional Chinese people believe that there are only a certain amount of breathing that a person deserves. So we believe that if we lower your breathing tempo, you can lengthen your life.
而健身气功呢，是通过减少呼吸次数来达到增强肺功能、减少呼吸次数的目的。我们的跑步呢，我们的有氧运动呢，是通过增加呼吸次数来达到减少呼吸次数的目的。这两个呢，有这个概念上的差别，结果呢也是有差别的。
How Qigong reduces your breathing tempo by reducing the amount of breathing that you take, and while aerobic exercises like running do the same, reach the same goal by increasing the number of breathing that you take, and this is very different.
这里要提醒大家的是，就是这个腹式呼吸不是追求越深越好，一般我们都是4到8次，就每分钟4到8次是有效区，而且呢，我们的呼吸呢是要讲究去调节自己的呼吸的规律，优化呼吸的组合，也就是呼吸是讲规律，动作呢是讲细节的。
Let me warn you that it is not breathing is not the deeper the better. In fact, the active zone of breathing, deep breathing, is 4 to 8 times per minute. So we have to observe the rules of breathing, and when we practice, we have to go into the details.
那么接着呢，我们呢讲讲调神对保养精气神的作用。
Now let's talk about how preserving your spirit will preserve your
保养
health.
精气神啊。那么健身气功呢是讲究通过一手啊，就是一手一个事物啊，用一念带万念的方法收敛自己的思绪，达到凝神放松的目的。
House Qigong values 一手 which means focusing your attentions and dispelling distracting thoughts.
啊，比如说我们在前缘起印啊，前缘起印的时候，一手丹田，双阴悬膈呢，一手这个太渊，就是说，当动作熟练、呼吸自然的情况下，把思想呢集中在某个穴位或者某个部位上，啊，像我们的左右弯弓式射雕，一手商阳穴，啊，一手到这个商阳穴。
When we practice the move, 前 the original qi wakens the vitality. We focus all our attention on our dantian, and when we do drawing the bow to shoot the ego, we focus our intention on our shangyang acupoint.
啊，那它这带来的最好的作用呢，就是达到一念排万念，啊，就是净化大脑，放松你的思想，放松精神。
Our goal through this kind of exercise is to clear our mind.
啊，那么净化大脑呢，就可以使我们的精神得到放松啊，然后呢，脑细胞合成能力增强，啊，同时呢，当我们一手某一个穴位的时候呢，就会使经络呢得到畅通，来保健我们的脏腑。比如说，我们一手商阳，就可以使肺经、大肠经得到畅通。
So, and by doing that, we can relax our mind and improve our brain cell functions. And when we do the drawing the bow to shoot the ego, we focus on our lungs and improve our big intestines function.
为什么能够畅通经络呢？中医讲叫意道、气道，啊，气道血行，血行并不生。还讲到说，血得热则行，经络遇热则通。所以呢，在练习的时候，一手可以使得这个部位、穴位、肢体发热，使气血流通。
The TCM believe that when your intention is in the right place, your qi will arrive, and when your qi can flow, your blood can circulate well. And when your blood circulates well, disease will find no place to enter your body. And when your blood is warmed up, it circulates well. And your meridians also are unclogged when it is warmed.
啊，那么健身气功呢，除了一手，还通过优美的音乐来影响我们的神。
House Qigong also employs music to affect your essence.
啊，比如说我们听到当当当当，大家都会心旷神怡、精神愉悦，啊，还有像五禽戏的音乐配的就非常好，啊，这个虎戏一出来就是有那种猛虎下山那种感觉，啊，鹿戏有那种轻巧灵活的那种意境，哎，这个呢都能够调养我们的五脏，啊，中医就认为。这个五行学说就认为，宫商角徵羽针对的是我们的脾啊，宫商角徵羽是肝心脾胃肾，角徵宫商也是针对我们的肝心脾肺肾的。
And each time when we hear the tunes, our mood get lifted. And each time we hear the beautiful music rhythm of 5 animal boxing. We can imagine a tiger mountain climbing the mountain and a deer running lightly. And Chinese traditional medicine believe that the Gongshang Jue Zi Yu, the 5 musical notes, in correspondence with our 5 organs.
那么同时呢，就是我们都知道，就是当我们心情焦虑啊、紧张的时候，听听轻音乐啊，听听这个像中国的听听民族音乐就可以很好的放松我们的精神，减少焦虑。
And we all know that when we get stressed, we might listen to light music or traditional Chinese music to relax.
在这里我们不光是说图个热闹，图个只是感官的这个感觉，我们还要注意这个乐实际上呢是在中国传统的文化里面是一个很重要的一个元素。乐呢实际上不是就是听声音的，它主要是有律的这个核心含义在里面，就是用乐来这个规定各个事物、各个这个就是各种事物的规律这个呢是对我们这个天地人的关系的处理是有很好的作用的。这个呢我们需要进一步去体会，还要经过专家的去研究。我只是在这里在这里呢给大家提出来，要重视这个乐，要重视这个律，也就是说我们的节律这个重视好了，我们不光是对身体好，而且对我们处理问题做生意或者是你的这个工作、学习、生活都有很好的帮助特别是社会管理。
Music is not only an objective feeling, it is a traditional element. It is not simply a sound, there is rhythm to it. It regulates the rules of almost everything, including our relationship with heaven and earth and our relationship with the society. When we value the tempos and music to everything, we elevate our health and do our business well and do our work job well.
所以我们要通过领会这个音乐的美妙，来这个用心去体会这个律的律动，是有生命的律动，来使自己这个能够很好的帮助自己这个改善我们的这个思想，改善我们的理念，应对生活。
So we have to understand the importance of music when we try to improve our thoughts and our life with the help of musical rhythm.
其实我们古人早就知道这个乐的这个健身祛病作用乐加一个草字头，跟自然结合的好的话，你就是药所以我们那个庖丁解牛就强调我们的这个养生之道，我们的生活之道都要这个就要合于经手智慧经手智慧呢，就是一种美妙的就是尧时代的美妙的音乐。
So the ancient people only knew too well of the effect and functions of music, because in traditional Chinese characters, 乐 or music is really similar to pills or medicine.
那么健身气功还有美好的诗句来这个引导着人们进入调神的状态屠格涅夫就说，诗到处洋溢着，凡是有美和生命的地方就有诗，它可以打动人的心。
House Qigong also utilizes background voice reading beautiful poems to guide practitioners acquire peace of mind. Russian writer Turgenev said that poems is everywhere. Where there is beauty and life, there is poem.
这个诗歌呢，不仅有这个美好的节奏律动就是来打动人的心灵，同时呢，它的内涵也可以引领我们的这个思想进入到这个很高的境界进入到这个恬淡虚无的境界。比如说12法里面的飞来五色鸟心有灵犀一点通等等。这个呢，我在去年的这个讲座里面，就是关于12法的这个形体诗韵化这个导引的12法的那个讲座里面呢，也给大家介绍过 这里呢不多说。
And poems is the tempo and rhythm of poems will lead us to an artistic concept, and just like the rhinoceros gazes at the moon.
那么在健身气功当中呢，它还是讲究优美的动作，讲究优美的动作，像鸟戏啊、犀牛望月呀，他们都是强调什么呢？强调动作优美大方、舒展柔和特别是我们的大舞它汲取了中国传统舞蹈的优点还有传统健身术的这个特点动作呢优美大方。这个呢是有助于放松我们的肢体也可以帮助我们的呼吸也会体现出我们前面说的纯筋拔骨一些动作特点，然后带来我们的精神的愉悦，就是美好的情感体验。
House Qigong also values the beauty of the movements is by stretching and soothing movements in the Da Wu. It helps us relax and regulate our breathing and our essence and spirit.
我们的健身气功呢，就是因为它这舒展大方的动作的适合比较契合了这个庖丁解牛里面提到的伤灵之舞就是这个墨子时代的一种这个美妙的舞蹈
The stretching movements in the House Qigong is all very beautiful. It reminds us of the Sangling Ziwu or the dances of Sangling mentioned by 墨子。
在美国哈佛大学有个教授叫埃米尔卡迪，他就写了一本书叫《高能量姿态》就是说这个舒展优美的姿态可以使我们的这个能量呢得到很好的提升实际上呢，我们健身气功讲的是提振阳气提振正气，叫做正气存内，邪不可干。
Harvard professor Amy Cuddy wrote in his book high power positions that if you boost it is important to boost our energy, and in traditional Chinese medicine it means to elevate your yang qi, and when your yang qi is full the negative qi will have no way to enter your body.
你看我们这个健身气功的爱好者每到练功结束这个回来的路上和到家里一天都是这个喜气笑意写在脸上这个生机勃勃这个老年人呢都像这个都像是还老还童一样就是我们在练习当中，因为我们强调了这个拔顶承肩、虚顶抵颈、气沉丹田这些高能量的姿态还有舒展优美大方的动作，这都是高能量的姿态来提振我们的阳气。
Practitioners always come home smiling and energetic after practicing, and some of the old practitioners even look like they have knocked some of their years off. This is because during practices they lowered their shoulders and stretched their bones and lowered their dantian. These are all very high power positions that help you stretch and induce in yang qi.
所以我建议我们的健身气功人，就是爱好者要学会秀美这个要学会臭美。
Thereby, I encourage practitioners to display beauty and seek beauty.
这样你可能会还老还童哦，会跟你们的这个同班同学形成代沟。
You might even look younger than your peers.
那么健身气功还有一些创设意境来改善这个神的，比如说五禽戏，这个要进入这个意境这个是虎的威 威严啊，然后熊的憨态，对，然后鹿子轻巧等等，他们这个在各个自己的环境里面无拘无束的生活的这种景象。
Five animal boxing has created many artistic concepts, such as tigers and deers living freely in their own environment.
他们一般都是通过口诀呀、歌诀呀、诱导词啊、动作的提示啊，以及他的要求啊，等等，来引导我们进入那种意境。
By using movement instructions, lyrics, and introductions, this kind of Qigong induced practitioners to go into the peace of mind.
当然，我们这种引导的意境啊、意手啊、这个意识引导啊，都是要这个像清溪淡流一样自然的、这个水到渠成的来达到。所以我们强调的是绵绵似手非手，绵绵若存，或者叫意如清溪淡流。
So when we do the breathing and focusing exercises, it is easy to go with the flow. That's why we require you to channel your thoughts as if they are not there.
当然我们刚才分析的是健身气功调形、调息、调神对精气神的这个调养实际上呢，这3条呢是要这个融合为一体来帮助精气神的调养，帮助内脏的健康。
The essence, vital, and energy and the spirit should be integrated and improved at the same time, so as to improve the health of your organs.
对，那么要注重的是这个调形为调息、调神服务，调形调息呢要为调神服务，反过来调神呢也要帮助调息的提高，叫这个融合为一体。
We need to use by bodybuilding, we improve our essence, vital energy, and spirit, and from the other way around, by improving those 3 things, it also helps us regulate our body and physics.
当然我们最终目标呢是要达到像《道德经》提出的恬淡虚无精神内守这个淫破抱一能无离乎专气致柔能婴儿乎剔除渲染能无邪乎就是精神肉体完美的结合。
Our ultimate goal is to seek a peace of mind and dispel distracting thoughts.
当然这是我们的一个目标我们这是目标呢，要通过我们不断的调神、调息、调形的这种这个历练就是练习，来逐渐的达到这种程度这是一个过程，而不是就是我们的目标一定要达到。这到底这个恬淡虚无这个用什么评价，我们还需要研究。
However, there is not established judgment for how much a peace of mind you should achieve. It is actually a process. That's why you need to keep practicing your breathing exercises and physical exercises to reach those ultimate goal.
所以我们只是要明确健身气功最主要的要抓3条合一，它是可以达到保养精气神的目的的。第二呢，要充分这个领会3条怎么样去调养精气神要做到准确、细致、合理然后最后呢，就要重视调神。
That's why when we do health Qigong practices, we need to use the regulations of the physic, breathing, and the 3 other things by combining those three things at the same time so as to regulate our organs and preserve our essence, vital energy and spirit. Meanwhile, we also need to fully utilize those tools in a regulated and scientific way and pay attention to the details so as to using essence preservation for physics and breathing exercises.
最后呢，我们来谈一谈健身气功的实践是以阴阳综合为原则的。
Health Qigong, the ultimate goal of Health Qigong is to seek unity between Yang and Yin.
那阴阳综合呢，我们又可以用阴阳平衡，这个阴阳融合、阴阳和合来解释。道德经说万物负阴而抱阳，充气以为和。关键呢是一个和字。
For that to happen, we have to look at what Tao Te Ching said. It says everything on the earth combines yin and yang at the same time and reaches the final goal of harmony.
关于阴阳综合的这个文献呢，是数不胜数这里不一一介绍。
Countless of research and studies about yin and yang. We don't have time for that now.
那么我们健身气功呢的练习呢，就是要利用阴阳对立、阴阳互根、阴阳这个消长、阴阳转化的这种规律来进行锻炼，来协调阴阳，使它平衡，达到动态的平衡。
It is exactly through trying to reach the goal of yin and yang in equilibrium, harmonies yin and yang, and dynamic equilibrium of yin and yang that we practice Health Qigong.
在健身气功里面呢，它通过功法的结构的对称，比如说上下呀、左右开合呀，形式的对称，比如说有动功有静功有站功有坐功等等吧。来实现这个阴阳综合的这种原则。
The way Health Qigong realizes the utility between yin and yang is by reaching symmetry, the symmetric movement between up and down, left and right, front and rear, close and openness. And all the movements are in symmetry, including the sitting position, meditation, stance, and sitting exercises.
刚才说的阴阳综合呢，不是讲阴阳的绝对对称是阴阳的动态的平衡所以我们在练习的时候呢一定不能这个讲的是绝对的这个对称，绝对的对称呢也可能就不平衡了。比如说我们这个有动功、有静功、有站功、有坐功，大家这个马上就会提出来，我为什么健身气功站功多呀？静功这个坐功少为什么动功多呀？静功少这就体现出了阴阳综合的特点。因为我们现代社会是静坐少动，所以我们阳气不足要动，是吧？所以要站，就是这样达到平衡。
Some may wonder that why is it that there are so many movements and so many standing stance in Health Qigong when we were talking about yin and yang, but I need to point out that yin and yang are not in absolute symmetry. Instead, they are in a dynamic equilibrium. And since we are now living in a sedentary lifestyle, we need to practice Health Qigong so as to balance the yin and yang.
同时我们健身气功的过程呢也体现出了对称，比如说难度从容易到稍微难一点然后再变成容易简单稍微复杂一点再变成简单，你去看看这些功法，强度也是从微小到小中，然后呢过渡了一段时间再到小都是基本对称的。
The entire process of Health Qigong also observed the rule of symmetry because the difficulty, impact and complexity of the sequence are all from easy to difficult, then eventually to easy, and low impact to medium impact, and eventually to low impact.
这些对称的这些特点呢，并不是说我们一这样练了就马上就实现对称了。这是为了帮助我们先建立这么一个对称的概念，然后去体会这种对称阴阳综合的这种这个功能，然后去养成阴阳综合的逻辑思维的习惯。
This is not to say that as soon as we practice House Qigong, we can practice symmetry immediately. It is to say that we need to adopt this mindset and so as to achieve the final goal of yin-yang balance.
那么它的动作特点呢，也是有利于实现阴阳综合的。比如说动作连贯
The movements of House Qigong are all very continuous and circular.
圆活
Soothing and relaxing.
实际上这种圆活的，你比如说在功法特点中，八段锦讲究圆活连贯，12法讲究弓走圆道，太极养生杖讲究圆转四方，这都是突出圆。
易筋经 and 8 pieces of brocade, 12-step Daoyin health preservation exercises, and 6 character formula all abide by the rules of circular movements.
实际上这种圆呢，实际上呢就最适合阴阳平衡了。
Circles work the best for the unity between yin and yang.
如果我们这样摆起来如果这样直来直去的话，这个呢，就阴阳就找不到了，全是阳了如果你往上提的时候，往上提的时候，你一提手腕这样一提手腕一沉肘，你就有阴阳的这个结合了向下的手掌是阳，向上提的手臂是向下的手掌是阴，向上提的手臂是阳这样阴阳就融合了推掌的时候也是这样向前推的是阳，然后呢你的手腕放松手掌向后的是阴向前推的时候向下是阴，向前是阳，它是弧形推出。
When we practice Qigong, we should not do it in a stiff way. Instead, when we do it, we need to do it in a circular way. For example, when we raise our palms, it represents yang, and when we lower it down, it represents yin, and when we push, it is yang. When we put it back, it is yin. And we just need to do it in a circular and soft way.
这个动作要圆然后姿势也要圆，所以我们要强调势要圆，无实有凹凸，就是所有的动作要这个圆匀。动作和姿势都要圆匀。
All the postures and positions need to be circular.
然后呢我们看到圆的形式是最符合生命的是最符合事物的存在，不管是生命也好，这个自然也好，比如说天体这个四季生命的循环，无一离不开圆，但这个圆呢是一个弧，不是说一个正圆的
Circles can be found in Mother Nature as well, in the universe and all around us, and also the four seasons.
那么我们在这个健身气功当中，它的运动特征有松紧、快慢、刚柔，这些特征呢，都是在这个让我们很好的可以体验这个阴阳综合的特点的。
The features of House Qigong include the balance between fast and slow, tight and loose.
还有一个更重要的，就是在健身气功的锻炼当中呢，它也强调虚实分明。
When we practice House Qigong, we need to do it in a way that it is clearly indicate which of your feet and arms carry most of your body weight.
比如说上虚下实这个左虚右实这个呢就有助于 改善我们的力量，特别是左虚右实，你在虚实分明的情况下，柔缓的动作可以改善我们的腿部力量。那我们知道这个足为肾之根，肾主骨生髓，这样就可以调补我们的肾气，预防骨质疏松。
When we practice, when we do, we have to realize that up and left represent 虚, which means vagueness, and down and right means strength, 实. And doing those comparisons will help you increase your strength and replenish your kidney qi and avoid osteoporosis.
现在就是我们在练习过程当中呢，很多这个爱好者呢没有注意到去这个理解虚实，运用虚实。我希望我们在练习当中呢，你每一个动作环节，每一个肢体部位，每一个这个动作的相对状况，你都要搞清楚，它一定会有虚实的。比如说我们往那一站，往那一站哪是虚乃是实乃是阴乃是阳那么我们往上百会往上顶，就是阳，这个髋往下沉就是阴，这个一定要有一顶就有一沉。而且是通过沉来顶。
A lot of practitioners have not understood Qu and Shi properly, and I encourage you to get a clearer idea of the postures and their comparisons.
那么虚实分明的这个就是虚实分明这个问题呢是特别复杂的我们呢练习健身气功的目的呢这不是。就是说，不是说一下就去达到虚实分明，达到这个阴阳综合的目的，而是我们去体会，去逐渐的去接近它，逐渐的去实现它。
I don't expect you to acquire a thorough understanding of Xu and Shi immediately. I just expect you to understand it step by step.
比如说我们在开步的时候，我们要这个移重心。提踵叫点起落，然后做动作呢要圆活，要提起来，要圆活。
For example,
这个不好翻吧？不好翻那个力就不说了，往下走吧。那么另外一个特点的健身气功呢，反映在这个调节阴阳综合的特点是强调反序的练习。它就是说，这个练习呢是强调和我们平时生活当中、工作当中相反的动作。因为我们平时当中呢，如果有很多是集中在一个部位使它那个部位产生疲劳。那为了这个缓解它呢，我们就要做一些相反的动作。这在健身气功当中是有很多的。
Health Qigong allows you to do a lot of actions to counter a lot of counter actions to your daily life movements, so as to better balance your nervous system and reduce your fatigue.
那么一般我们向前的多了或者是我们直的多了，所以就要做一些侧屈的，做一些这个抬头挺胸反背的动作这个呢是可以平衡我们的神经系统，解除全身的疲劳的。
So in our daily life, we tend to bend down and bend forward too much. So when we practice Health Qigong, we do the counter actions by bending your knees and do it in a circular way.
特别是可以这个强健我们的薄弱环节，防止这个意外的损伤。
It will increase your muscle strength and avoid potential sprains.
大家也都清楚这个。健身气功呢是中小强度的锻炼，所以呢，它在运动强度和运动量呢也体现出了阴阳综合，这个我们老祖宗呢早就给出了一个很好的这个理论。
Health Qigong involves medium to low impact exercises, and our ancient philosophers have already raised that point early on.
叫这个人欲劳动，动物过急
Huatuo said that a human body needs to work out, but not to the extreme.
那么你人一劳动就是流水不腐，复苏不度嘛，就是转动的门轴不会被虫咬，流动的水它不会腐烂，那这种锻炼呢，我们古人甚至还给出了强度的要求，说微微出汗而不喘。
So as the saying goes, running water never becomes putrid, just as a door hinge is never worm-eaten. So when we practice, we just need to practice so much as to sweat a little, but not pant.
那么这个呢也契合了我们前面说过的有氧运动的这种一些特征，那么有氧运动呢就是靠中小强度，达到了这个靶心率的这种区域。来锻炼身体。
This is also the same case with aerobic exercises.
那么这个我们讲解这个阴阳综合并不是说大家所有的都要这个可丁可卯，或者说每个姿势每个环节都要去符合他的要求，这个我们也达不到这个个人的情况也不一样个人的这个每个这个季节每个时辰都不一样，身体状况不一样，所以这个呢还是要根据我们的情况来进行练习。但是呢，我们最重要的是告诉大家这个要事事，就是世界上万事万物是事事时时处处都有阴阳综合的这种理念。
However, that doesn't say that we have to stiffly put into practice of the yin and yang everywhere. Everyone differ based on their conditions like physiques and body positions, body conditions. But I just need to mention that yin and yang and its harmony is all around us.
我们要去认识它，这个学会认识这个顺运调节。把握这个阴阳。
But we still need to learn how to identify and grasp and harmonize yin and yang.
而且这种阴阳综合的这个概念呢，不是一个点，它是有一个区域的。比如说强度，我们不是说就是在心率在120就最好，没有，我们是一个区域。练习时间并不是说一定半个小时最好，我们也是一个区域，或者是半个小时到1个小时。这样的话呢，我们只要遵循这个原则去做呢，就一定能达到好的效果。
And yin and yang harmony is not an exact point. It is actually a region. So when we practice, it doesn't mean that we can only practice half an hour. We can actually practice about half an hour to 1 hour.
就是这个通过这个阴阳这个综合的实践来体验，建立阴阳综合的理念以及它的习惯。
So we need to put into practice the unity between yin and yang.
这里要提出来的是就是通过上面的分析，我们可以这个坚信练习健身气功呢，是实践这个阴阳综合的有效的抓手和途径。
And practicing house qigong is a very effective way to reach that.
但是呢，我们还要注意就是有针对人的锻炼来说呢，一个巨系统来说呢，我们还有很多地方需要去认识，需要去关注，或者说是改进吧。比如说我们健身气功在上肢力量锻炼方面呢，还需要加强，或者说我们在这个练习健身气功的过程当中呢，我们要结合上肢的锻炼进行这个操作，可能对阴阳综合的这个认识和效果就更好。
But however, house qigong has still got a lot of potential for improvement, such as we can improve our upper body exercises.
同时我们的管理部门呢，也应该把这个健身气功的定量的评价指标和需要改进的地方定量的评价指标要做出来争取要做成处方式的锻炼可喜的是，现在我们健身气功已经这个开始已经这个组织完成了这个5个这个运动处方的这个 研究。
Regulators also need to set up criterions in this regard. It is delightful to see that 5 prescription-like sports health Qigong event has already been set up and put into practice.
那么我们这次的给大家讨论这个养生智慧健身气功俯拾皆是呢，主要目的呢就是告诉大家，健身气功呢是处处体现了养生智慧。
Our goal for the session today is to remind you that the wisdom of health preservation is everywhere.
我们要实现养生智慧呢，就是要通过保养精气神和阴阳综合这个原则但是这个呢不是一蹴而就的，要通过不断的练功来体会、把握、实践。
To be specific, it means that we need to preserve our essence, vital energy, and spirit in order to achieve yin and yang equilibrium. However, we cannot achieve that overnight. We have to continuously understand and grasp a yin yang equilibrium.
我们要把重点放在调理我们的精气神、调理内脏、调理精气神把握阴阳上面形成这样的习惯。提升我们的人生智慧，然后运用到我们的生活、学习、工作当中，来提升生命质量。
Through practicing and implementing the equilibrium yin and yang concept, we can then understand and adapt to the rule and improve our philosophical wisdom in this regard, and put those wisdoms into use for our career and studies, so as to improve our life quality.
那怎样能够达到呢？我们要通过练功求道来实现。那么下一讲呢，就给大家介绍这个话题。
And our manner for reaching that goal is to practice health Qigong, and let's talk about health Qigong more in our next lecture.
我就讲到这里，再次感谢中国健身气功协会和国际健身气功联合会，也感谢大家的参与，谢谢。
Thank you for your participation, and also thank you International Health Qigong Federation and China Health Qigong Association.